Hello everyone, welcome back to the Photon Rookie channel. My name's Jim and this is video number 31. Today we're going to process an extreme close-up of the Horsehead Nebula structure from the Seestar S50. Before we get started on the processing video, I just wanted to show an image of what was my winter project. This image is comprised of over 30,000 10-second fit files from the S30 and the S50 combined together. It turned out pretty well. The stars need a little bit of work, but I'm really proud at how this image turned out, and it's a good illustration of how well the Seestars can do if you give them enough time on target. I'm going to go ahead today and we're going to process 18,000 fit files exclusively from the S50, and we're going to zoom in on the Horsehead structure to see how much detail we can pull out of it. As you can see here, my winter project image we just looked at took over 54 hours for my computer to stack using an external hard drive. The 18,000 images from the S50 that we're going to process today took about 32 hours to stack. Okay, here we are in Siril. We have the unstretched linear image of IC434, the Horsehead Nebula, here on the screen, comprised of just over 18,000 fit files, 10-second subs from the Seestar S50 exclusively. So let's get started and see how much detail we can pull out of this image. First, let's take a look at the raw image. Let's go down here to linear and click the button, select auto stretch, and now you can see what we're starting with. That looks really good for a raw image right out of the Seestar, but it should look good with 18,000 fit files. First thing we're going to do is we're going to get rid of the green noise. You can see it's got a slight green cast to it. Using the filter on the Seestar S50 introduces that green noise, so we're going to get rid of that. So we're going to come up here to image processing. We're going to come down to remove green noise and select that, and we'll hit apply, and voila, the green noise is gone. So you close that, make sure you save that result with the save button here. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to do a photometric color calibration and apply what is supposedly the correct coloration to this object. So again, we go up to image processing, come down to color calibration, select photometric color calibration. Now, if you already have values in these boxes, that means that Siril recognized the object and applied the metadata in here automatically. If you don't have anything in these boxes, if there's zeros, then you could come here to this search box and you could type in the designation of your object. In this case, for the Horsehead Nebula, it's IC434, and hit find. And if it successfully finds it, it'll load in this box right here, highlighted in blue. And you just make sure you click on that, and once your boxes have data in them, you click OK. So watch the image. When I click OK, you should see the image change slightly in color. So here we go. Okay, changed a little bit. We're going to close this box. We're going to save that result. We're going to come back down here to this button and we're going to put it back in linear. Now we're going to remove the stars from the image so we can work on the nebula without affecting the stars. So to do that, we come up here to image processing. We come down to star processing. We select StarNet star removal. You want to make sure you check the pre-stretch linear box since our image is not stretched yet, and click the upsample ×2 and hit execute. So it'll take a moment. Now StarNet will remove the stars from the image. Okay, StarNet is just about done removing the stars. Okay, now it's finished. So let's take a look. Let's auto stretch the image and take a look at the nebula without the stars. Okay, so there it is with the stars gone. Now these halos from the bright stars are going to stay with the nebula. StarNet didn't remove those. These halos can present a challenge in processing all to themselves that we'll probably get into here in a little bit. So let's go back to auto stretch and put it back in linear. Make sure you save that result. Now let's go to this upload button. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn the starless image into a TIFF file. Come down here to supported image type, select TIFF, and I have a TIFF folder on the desktop of my computer that I put my TIFF files in. I change it to TIFF files and put them there because instead of just using Siril, we're going to use Grappert, GIMP, and Astrosharp also, and I like to have them in TIFF format when I process them in those programs. So I choose desktop where my TIFF folder is, locate it, open the TIFF folder, and hit save. You hit save one more time. So now that starless image is saved in my TIFF folder. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to come up to open, and we're going to open the star mask file. This is just the stars without the nebula. These are the stars that we just removed from the image. So we can go ahead and stretch these. So let's come up to image processing, generalized hyperbolic stretch transformations, and under type of stretch we're going to choose modified arcsine transform. Under color stretch model we're going to choose humid weighted luminance. Nothing special about doing the stars. This is pretty quick. I take them up to between 7.5 and 8, about in that range or thereabouts, till I get a good number of stars there. And I hit apply. I then close this box and I save the result. Now we're going to take this star mask image and we're going to turn it into a TIFF file and put it in the TIFF folder just like we did for the starless image. And we do it the same way. We come up here to the upload button, come down here to supported image files, choose TIFF, go to the desktop where my TIFF folder is, choose the TIFF folder, and hit save. And save again. So we can minimize Siril now. We'll come back to it later. What we want to do is we want to open Grappert up next. And we're going to load the image into Grappert, the starless image, right out of our TIFF folder. And Grappert will do a partial stretch on the image so you can see it. Okay, this is important. One thing I learned when and the many times I processed the Horsehead Nebula using Grappert, if you use the background extraction, although it generally improves most of the area of the image, it destroys detail in the horse head. You see this little wispiness, these little clouds here and in the horse's nose and going down the neck. If you use background extraction, it will take that detail out and make the whole horse head almost exactly black. So I'm not going to use background extraction for this image because the whole goal of this exercise today, at the end, we're going to crop in on this horse head and see how much detail we can expose on it. So we want to preserve that detail. So we're going to skip background extraction and go direct to denoising. Grappert does an excellent job of denoising an image. If you look at the image now, you'll see it's a little bit of graininess in it. Grappert will take pretty much all of that out without really affecting the sharpness of the image. I'm a little tongue-tied this morning. So let's go ahead and do it. I'm going to use denoise strength 1.0 and click denoise. And as it goes through the denoise, it will remove all this little graininess. It takes a moment for Grappert to do its thing here. Okay, denoising has completed, and you can see it made quite a bit of difference in the image. I'll come up here to this box and we'll look at the original. Okay, you see all this graininess throughout the image, and now let's look at the denoised image. As soon as I click on this, watch the difference. Dramatic difference, and it really didn't affect the sharpness of the features in the image. So that's what we came here for. Good job, Grappert. So now we're going to save the image, save processed, right back into our TIFF folder. And we can go ahead and close Grappert. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to open GIMP. And in GIMP, we're going to come up here to File, Open. We're going to go to the desktop to get to our TIFF folder. Scroll down till we find it. There it is. And we're going to select the file that has Grappert tagged on it. This indicates that this is the file that we just processed in Grappert, that we just denoised. So we select that. And you're going to have an image with really nothing in it because it's not stretched yet. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn this image back into a fits file and put it back in Siril so we can stretch it. So the way we do that is we come up here to File, come down to Export As, and down here in Select File Type, we're going to choose Flexible Image Transport System, otherwise known as FITS. I'm going to put it back in my Siril work folder. My Siril work folder is on the D drive, so I'm going to select D drive, scroll down till I find my folder. There it is. Select my Siril work folder and hit Export. Okay, the denoised starless image is now back in Siril, so we can go back there and stretch it. So let's close GIMP. Let's come back and maximize the Siril screen. Come up here to Open. Locate the file that we just imported into Siril with the Grappert tag on it. Click on that. So you're going to get a white screen here. That's okay. That's normal. Come up here to Image Processing. Come down to Generalized Hyperbolic Stretch Transformation. This time under Type of Stretch, we're going to choose Generalized Hyperbolic Transform. We're going to leave the Color Stretch Model on Humid Weighted Luminance. And here's the stretch bar we're going to use. You just want to stretch it a little at a time. Each time you stretch it, you hit Apply. And as we're stretching, hit Apply again. You'll start to see the features of the nebula come into view shortly here. Stretch again. And we'll stretch again. Too much. Again, one of the worst habits I have is I tend to overstretch to try to bring these dimmer structures out in nebula. But you're better off not overstretching and using other programs to bring these features out. Like GIMP has a shadows program that's or a shadows slide bar that we'll use here in a few minutes that really brings some of these darker details out. Another thing you can do when you're stretching is click this logarithmic scale box right here. A perfect stretch normally would be a rise to a peak there and then come straight down to this corner at a 45-degree angle. I'm up a little above that. I think I'm going to leave it where it is because I do want some of this imagery to show. Let's uncheck that. And if I try to stretch it more, you're just kind of bringing more noise up in the image and kind of washing it out. So we want to come back here and bring it up to just where you start seeing the darker part of the nebula. So I think right there looks good. So when I hit Apply, I'm also going to go up here to Type of Stretch and come out to Linear Stretch Black Point, because sometimes you can adjust this and take any grayness out of the image that's there. I don't have a lot of room to the left of this spike to remove. That's where the grayness is usually located. I can use the stretch bar, or I can use this fine tune. Since my spike is so close to the left edge, I'm just going to use the plus on the fine tune and see if I can use any of that, and I really can't. And the reason is, if you look at this clip percentage, you see you want to keep this percentage at 0. As soon as I start using black point, I start clipping the image. You see a value shows up there. So we're not going to do that. I'm just going to close that. So I'm happy with the way the image looks now. What we're going to do is we're going to turn this image back into a TIFF file, put it back into the TIFF folder on a desktop so that we can start processing it using GIMP and Astrosharp. So let's come up here to the upload button. Make sure you save your result here first, and then click the upload button. We're going to turn this back into a FIT file, or TIFF file, excuse me. And then we're going to go to the desktop, TIFF folder, and save it. And save. Okay, we can minimize Siril again, and let's go and reopen GIMP. I'm going to come up here to File, Open, go to Desktop, scroll down to the TIFF file, and we're going to choose the latest file, the file that we just stretched in Siril, which is right here. And this box, Convert to RGB Working Space, will open up. Don't hit Convert, just hit Keep. And there's our image ready to manipulate. So what I like to do is I like to zoom in on it a little bit. So we come up here to View, come down to Zoom, Fit Image in Window. Okay, let's go up here to Colors, click on that, and let's come down to Saturation. Let's see if we can make this red rust colored area a little bit richer in color. So we come over here to this scale, and as we increase this to the right, the color saturation will increase. You know, you take it all the way up, that's a little much. It's kind of personal preference. I've seen people, myself included, process the image of the horse head with really bright reds and all that, but you tend to wash out some of the detail in these cloud structures when you do that. So I kind of like the way that looks. So I'm going to hit OK. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to come back up to colors again, and we're going to come down to shadows and highlights. Now remember, I talked about earlier, you can use this shadows function to start bringing out some of this hidden detail in the hidden part of the nebula. Just keep in mind it's also going to tend to brighten up the entire image, so you have to keep an eye on that. So let's go over here to the shadows slider and take it up. See if we can reveal some of that. And yes, we have. You can see a lot more of this darker nebulosity here. You can also use white point adjustment here, this slider, to take the glare of these star halos down a little bit. Yeah, that helped it. I might take the shadow bar up a little bit more. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. So you click OK. Now what we're going to do is we're going to work on sharpening the object and maybe do a little bit of noise reduction. So this step is especially important for this project because remember, at the end we're going to crop in really close on the horse head as our final project to see the detail in the horse head structure here. So sharpening is going to be important. And sharpening is a double-edged sword because the more you sharpen, the more noise you introduce. So we're going to see if we can find a happy balance here. What I'm going to do before we sharpen is I'm going to come up here to view and zoom in even more. Come down to zoom and hit fill window, and you can see that we got a good view of the horse head there as we introduce some sharpening to it. So now we're going to go to filters. We're going to come down to enhance, come over to this box, and we're going to come down here to sharpen and click on it one time. Now you can see that it introduced a little bit of sharpening already. We can do more, but I don't want to over sharpen right now in GIMP because we're going to put this image in Astrosharp, which is an excellent sharpening tool. So I don't want to overdo it here in GIMP. But you can see we're starting to see quite a bit of structure in the horse head there. So when I clicked on the sharpen, it automatically introduced a little bit of sharpening into the image already. If you want to, you can come up here to the sharpening amount on this slide bar and slide it all the way down, and that's what we started with. As you slide this bar to the right, you're sharpening the image, and you can see that you can definitely go too far. So I'm going to reset it to where we just had a little bit of sharpening, and we're going to go ahead and save this, and then we're going to use Astrosharp to sharpen it even further. Let's go back to our normal view. Come down to zoom, fit image and window. So that's what our image looks like so far. We got a pretty good amount of noise up here that we'll deal with later in processing, but overall the image, the cloud structure, the details in the horse head is looking good. All right, so let's go ahead and come up to File. We're going to come down to Export As, and we're going to hit Export. It's going to ask you if you want to save it over the previous version in the TIFF folder. Yes, you do. So click Replace. Hit Export one more time. And close GIMP. All right. Now we're going to open Astrosharp. So here's Astrosharp. As stated in previous tutorials, Astrosharp is excellent for sharpening your images if you have a lot of data in the image. If you come in here with an image that only has 200 or 300 fit files, it's not going to help your image. In fact, it'll make it worse. But if you get up there around 1,500, 2,000, 3,000 fit files, this is an excellent sharpening tool. So you want to make sure that you have full image under the preview clicked here. You want to make sure that under the choose model that you select second beta. And let's go ahead and load our starless image in so we can sharpen it. And here it is right here in the TIFF folder. We'll go ahead and click on that. And it's going to load your starless image right here. It's kind of whited, grayed out. That's not an issue. Don't worry about it. So now since we have 18,000 fit files in this image, for aggressiveness, I'm going to take this bar all the way up. For the PSF, for the DSO, I'm going to take it all the way up. We don't have any stars in this image, so I'm not really worried about that slider. Now we're going to click Update Sliders. You'll see a progress bar open up here. And there it is, and we'll let Astrosharp do its thing. Okay, Astrosharp's just about done. Progress bar is full here. That'll disappear, and then it should load our result up right here. So progress bar is gone. It's like looking in a box of Cracker Jacks for the prize when you wait for the result to come up on this thing, and there it is. So we'll go ahead and download it into the TIFF folder so we can take a look at it. And save. All right, we can close Astrosharp now. Let's open the TIFF folder and have a look. Okay, Astrosharp will name the file processed, and it's right here. So let's open it up. And let's also open the previous version up so we can see what the difference was. Okay. This is the unprocessed version on the left. This is the processed version that went through Astrosharp on the right. I can see a difference. We can zoom in on the horse head there and take a look at both versions. And you can see that obviously this image that went through Astrosharp is sharper than the previous image. You can also see more detail in these cloud structures back here. You can see a little more detail in these tendrils of gas dropping down under the horsehead nose, and even the little cloudy area at the top of the head. So Astrosharp did its thing and did a good job. So we're going to go ahead and stick with that result. Let's close these boxes. And just for a bit of housekeeping, I'm going to get rid of some files we don't need anymore. We don't need these old versions of the starless image. So I'm just going to go ahead and delete them. Okay, at this time I also want to rename the processed image that we just sent through Astrosharp. The reason I want to do that is we have to send the star mask through Astrosharp also. When we do that, it's going to name this image processed and try to save it over the old one. So we don't want to do that. So all I do is I just rename it by putting a 1 in front of the word processed, and then we won't have to worry about that. So now let's go ahead and send the star mask through Astrosharp. It's important to note that if you send your starless image through Astrosharp, you have to send your star mask through Astrosharp. If you don't send them both through it, you won't be able to put them back together in Siril. So Astrosharp's open now. What we want to do is make sure we click full image under preview. You want to make sure you select second beta, and let's load our star mask in right from the TIFF folder. It'll load up right here. So there it is. So since we're planning on, at the end of this, cropping way in on the image, I'm going to go ahead and take a chance, and I'm going to maximize the sharpening on the stars, just like I did for the nebula. So I'm going to take the PSF for the stars all the way up, aggressiveness all the way up. Now I'm going to hit update sliders and let Astrosharp go ahead and sharpen the stars. Progress bar should come up here momentarily. There it is. Okay, Astrosharp's just about done. The progress bar is full. That will go away and it will load our result right here momentarily. There we are. There's our result. So we'll download it back into the TIFF folder. We'll close Astrosharp and we'll open GIMP again. So we're going to send the starless image through GIMP one more time, make any final adjustments, and do what we need to do to it before we send it to Siril to put the stars back in. So just come up to File, Open, Desktop, TIFF. And remember, our starless image that we processed is now named one processed. So we choose that. And there it is. So in this case, since we're interested in cropping the horse head out a little bit later, let's go ahead and zoom in on it. Fill a window. All right, let's see if we can sharpen this some more using GIMP. So we'll come up to Filters, come down to Enhance, and come down to Sharpen. Right. So sharpened it a little bit on its own there. Well, that is some amazing detail right there for a 50mm scope. Granted, you've really got to spend a lot of time and get a lot of fits to do it, but that looks pretty wonderful right there. We sharpened it up pretty good, didn't really bring any noise back in. That looks really nice, so I'm going to hit OK and accept that amount of sharpening. So one thing that's happened here in this processing, we picked up these, in the star halos, we picked up these blue colored rings. What I want to do now is I want to get rid of them. So the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to erase the blue color and just leave the white color behind. So the way we can do that in GIMP is come up here, select this eraser. You want to come down here and click in this white box. You want to make sure this box is white. The way you do that, you just select it here if it's not. Any other color than white's not going to work. So you click OK. So we had this box open up over here, and you can see the brush size. Let's take this one. This one's particularly bad here. You want to put the crosshairs right in the center of it and start clicking. You can go around the edges and just kind of erase that blue color. I'm not sure why I picked up that blue color. Those of you out there who are far more advanced than I am in processing these images, maybe you could leave an explanation in the comments on what causes that. So that looks better. I'm going to do the same thing here. I want to try to avoid making the star halo bigger than it was. But to get rid of this blue ring around it, it's going to increase the size of the halo. But that'll still look better than having that blue ring around it. Okay. Let's come down here and do these guys. It's really bad on this one. I have a blue ring and an orange ring. All right, that looks better. This one's rough here. Let's go down and take care of this one. And if you mess up, you can come up here and hit this little back arrow, and it will take the last thing you did off. It'll cancel it in case you go outside, color outside the lines here and get into the nebula. You can reverse it and redo it. I could probably use a larger brush size to speed this up, but smaller brush size gives you a little bit more control. All right, those look better. Let's go back up We can also take it out of here. Got a little bit of funky coloration in here too. All right, that's an improvement. Let's go up here to the other side of the image. Yeah, this one needs some attention. Better. Let's go back up here to view. And let's zoom back out. Yeah, getting rid of those blue rings and the halos really helped the image out a lot. So I think we're ready to send this image back to Siril. Tell you, let's go up here, let's look at saturation one more time. Like I said, so much of this is personal preference. How much coloration you want or don't. It even looks good as a black and white image. It's the Ansel Adams effect. Yeah. You add a little bit more color in there. Hit OK. Let's go back up to colors again and come down to shadows. See if the shadows bar will help the image out any. I think that looks pretty good. Okay, let's go ahead and send this image back to Siril so that we can put the stars back in. So we come up here to File and Export As. We're going to turn this back into a fit file. And we're going to put it back in the Siril work folder. It's on my D drive. Right there. And we'll hit Export. Okay. Let's close GIMP and reopen it. I like to close and reopen GIMP between image processing, between different images. I think it's just cleaner that way. So we're going to come up here to File again, Open, Desktop. TIFF folder, and we're going to click Processed. Remember, Processed is our star mask image after it went through Astrosharp. So we'll click on that. I'm not going to do anything to this image in GIMP. I'm just going to go ahead and export it straight to Siril. Go up to File, Export As, change it to a FITS file. Go to the D drive where my Siril work folder is. There it is. Hit Export. All right, now we can close GIMP. Maximize Siril on your screen. Maximize Siril on your screen. Okay, this is an interesting part because here is the Horsehead Nebula after we stretched it. Now we're going to overlay our processed image, the same image, over top of this, and you can see the difference. So I'll hit Open. And remember, it's called One Processed right here. So when I click on this, it'll load it here, and you can see the difference. Yeah, quite a difference. Yeah, I like the changes that we made. So now we're going to go ahead and put the stars. Save that. Go ahead and put the stars back in the image. So we go to Image Processing. We'll come down to Star Processing. We'll come over to Star Recomposition. on this little folder icon right here on this side. This box will open up. The left side is meant for the nebula and the right side is for the stars. So to load the nebula in, you want to come up to this little folder icon, click on it, choose the one processed, and it's loaded in there. And for the stars, you want to come over and click on this little folder icon, and you want to click the file called processed. Okay, the stars are back in there. I'm going to reduce the stars just a tiny bit using this black point. The Horsehead Nebula is one image that looks great with a lot of stars in it. Some objects I like to take a lot of stars out. Some I like to leave them in. But this one I like to leave a bunch of them in there. So maybe take it down a little bit more. There. I think that looks pretty good now. That's plenty of stars. So I'm going to hit apply for the stars. Now you can manipulate the nebula with these slide bars here. Like you can stretch it a little more if you want to. Like I say, it's all personal preference. I might stretch it up a little bit there since we're going to be cropping in on the horse head at the end of the project anyway. Yeah, I think that looks pretty nice. We still have a bunch of noise up in this corner. We're going to deal with that, but we're going to be cropping in very close to this area shortly anyway, so that noise won't really be a factor. So make sure you hit apply on both sides and close. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this. I'm just going to put it in the TIFF folder because it's easy to find, and we're going to use our own board computer photo processing software to crop this and bring a little bit more detail in it. So we're almost done with it. We're done with it in Siril right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the upload button. I'm going to change this to a PNG file. You can save it as a JPEG if you want to, but PNG holds much more information and just gives you a better quality picture. The only downside is if you save everything in PNG, you're using a lot more hard drive space. So I'm going to make it PNG, and I'm going to come up here to desktop, TIFF folder, and I'm going to call this let's name it HH Close-Up. And let's save it. Okay, now we're completely done with Siril, so we can close Siril. And let's open our TIFF folder up. Here's our image, HH Close-Up. We'll open it. All right, let's maximize it on the screen. And let's rotate it to a landscape. I see some really good detail in that. So what we're going to do is we're going to zoom in. We're going to crop down just onto the horse head, because that was the whole point of this exercise, is to see what kind of detail on the horse head the Seestar can squeeze out. So we're going to bring in everything pretty close here. All right, bring this in a little bit more. right, that looks really good. I may have to put the image back in GIMP at some time and get rid of some of this little blue area here. But look at that detail. Let's see if we can bring some more detail. So I'm done cropping. Let's go into adjustments. And I guess the big thing is, let's see if we can sharpen it a little bit more. Now, this is just a generic photo editing software that comes on the computer. Yours may be a little bit different, but they're basically the same. You'll have the same functions. So I have a sharpness bar here. I could try to bring the sharpness up a little bit more on it. You can definitely go too far. See how I'm starting to get the black donuts around the stars? So I definitely want to back that off. So I've introduced a little bit more sharpness there on the horse head. I mean, that's pretty amazing to be able to see all that with a 50mm scope. The structure down here looks pretty sharp too. You've also got a shadows function you can use to try to bring out a little bit more of that detail. I think maybe it helps a little bit. I'll allow a little bit. Highlights, you can take your maybe get rid of that remnant of that blue ring by taking highlights up a little bit. Contrast sometimes will help a little bit. It'll darken your image. You want to be careful not to lose what we've worked so hard to bring out in the horse head there. It'll take the image glare down just a little bit. Saturation, if you wanted to try to add more color, I think that's too much. Yeah, I think saturation is about where it needs to be. All right, let's do one fun thing here. I'm going to save this image as a copy, and I'll just rename it Horsehead Close-Up 2. I'll save it in the TIFF folder also, just so it's easy to find. And save. All right, now let's do an extreme close-up. See what we've got. This may be pushing the Seestar too far, but let's be adventurous and try it anyway. Okay. Let's see what adjustments we can do on that. I never thought I'd be able to blow the horse head up this big in an image. I'm just amazed. Of course, it's not Hubble quality or big Astro rig quality, but the fact that the Seestar can do this is pretty amazing. Let's go ahead and increase the sharpness a bit. See, I can, but I'm starting to introduce noise and starting to make the stars a little bit funky. You can add a little bit in there. Shadows. I think we're to the point now where the Shadows function doesn't really help us any. Highlights. Highlights doesn't help us any. A little bit of contrast. Maybe just a touch there. Yeah, I think I've pushed the Seestar as far as I can push it on the horse head with my limited abilities and skills, but that right there is pretty amazing. I'm really happy with that. So we'll go ahead and do a comparison of this cropping from the S50, and we'll crop the image, the horse head, from the combination S50 and S30 fit files with the S30 field of view and see how they compare. But this is pretty amazing. Okay, this is the image of the horse head structure we just processed from the Seestar S50 fits, 18,000 of them. Let's take a look at it in black and white and see if we can see extra detail in that image. Here's a very good comparison of the close-up of the horse head structure with the S30 image on the left and the S50 image on the right. This is a great illustration that the S50, of course, as expected, is able to pick up more detail. Here are the same comparison images in black and white. S30 on the left, S50 on the right. Again, we're not trying to compete with the Hubble or even the high-dollar Astro rigs, but it just amazes me that the Seestars can pick up this level of detail. A 50mm scope picking up that amount of detail on the horse head is extraordinary. A quick Photon Rookie announcement. I'll be taking both Seestars, my Galaxy S24 and my Canon digital camera, out to Colorado for 3 weeks in late June, and I'm going to test the scenery functions out in both the S30 and the S50. I'm going to try to get some Milky Way shots with my other cameras, and we're going to be able to hopefully test out some Bortle 1 skies with the Seestars. I might even do some live streaming while I'm up there in the Rocky Mountains in the middle of the night. So stay tuned for that. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, if it benefited you, please consider subscribing, and I'll see you on the next video.